Well, earlier I was joined by human rights campaigner Peter Tatchell and UKIP's David Curtin.
What's going to happen, and what we've seen already, is that children are being taught transgenderism as an issue, as an adult ideology, which is at an age at far too young for children to understand. We've seen a 4,000% increase in the number of children who are being referred for gender dysphoria when they're children, some of them very, very young children.
Well, let's get that in context, because it's the very youngsters, the young ones, the 5-year-olds, have been taught about safe relationships, probably about protecting them from sexual predators. Whereas it's the 15-year-olds, they're almost adults at that age. Can't they address those sort of issues?
Well, we do need to teach children facts. You know, what's happened in Brighton is that children are now being taught something which is not factually or scientifically true. I mean, that they say that all genders can have periods. Well, the fact is there are two sexes, male and female, and whether you're male or female is determined by your anatomy and your chromosomes. Boys do not have periods. Only girls have periods. Okay, that's a scientific fact, and that's
we could have a separate debate about that, actually. But Peter, isn't David absolutely right? It's going to confuse youngsters talking about those sort of issues, isn't it?
Well, the schools that already do relationship education in primary classes find the children's response is very positive. The children understand the issues, and in fact, in many schools, it helps reduce bullying, particularly of kids who have got single parents, or perhaps who are in a children's home. They often get bullied, but with the understanding about relationships, other kids become more supportive. We know that the level of bullying of lesbian, gay, bisexual kids goes way down, as with the bullying of trans kids as well. So I think there's a lot of scaremongering and a lot of, perhaps not scaremongering, but unfounded fears about this issue. And, you know, the priority has got to be, as I said, the health and welfare of children. And you know, no one says that parents have the right to withdraw their kids from history or mathematics or physics. This is a fundamental issue because for most people, sex and relationships, the person they love, is probably the most important thing in their lives. And we want all those people to be happy, to have long-lasting relationships, to not end up having adulterous affairs, to not going off and having divorces. We want them to have sustained, happy, fulfilling relationships.
You're scaremongering, David.
I'm not scaremongering. I totally agree that we need to make sure that children don't bully each other. Absolutely, whether it's for, you know, what they think they are, or whether they're fat, or whether they're ginger, or many other things that people get bullied for in school. But that doesn't change the fact that parents have the right to take their children out of sex education, apart from the facts about biology and reproduction and that. That's how it is. That's how it's always been. And I think parents don't want that right to be taken away from them, and that's what the government is trying to do, as well as at the same time making the whole relationships and sex education LGBT inclusive from the very, very young age, the very youngest of ages, from 5 years old. You have teaching unions actually propagandizing and proposing that themselves, and you know that is too much too young. Children need a childhood where they're not sexualized, and where they're not exposed to things that they simply can't cope with and confuse them.
I'll give you an example. My neighbour got a young girl, 6 years old. On TV, she saw two men kissing and being romantic. And her immediate instinctive response as a 6-year-old, "Oh, isn't that sweet?" Kids are not born prejudiced. That's learned behaviour. And you know, going back to this whole thing about relationships, in primary school, it's going to be about love, about the importance of love and commitment and family relationships. And to tell young kids, some people will have two parents, a father and a mother. Some will have two mums or two dads. Some will be in single-parent families. Some will be in extended families, which include, you know, the immediate parents, but also, you know, uncles and aunts and cousins.
But some of the content, Peter, some parents will feel uncomfortable that they really don't want their children to be exposed to the sort of material that's being talked about in these lessons.
Well, kids get it anyway from tabloid newspapers, from social media, from TV, from cinema. They've learned everything, David. There's nothing explicit. They've learned it in the playground as well. It's ever more important that schools make sure that information is understood and correct and not nonsense.
Well, again, I mean, Peter, what you're talking about is stuff that's all safe and nice. I mean, it's absolutely fine. Teach people about family, teach people about love, teach people about not bullying each other and, you know, not being nasty to each other. We can all agree with that. But there's certain things which are far too much too young.